I am getting all kinds of bad vibes, bad juju when it comes to James Gunn and his stewardship of the DCU, which hasn't even really started. Yes, we did get Creature Commandos, but we haven't had a movie yet. And it feels like everything is kind of in a holding pattern. Lots of changes to the original plan, which is supposed to be this big, sweeping, epic 10-year plan with Peter Safran on board. The DCU was never going to be as discombobulated and scatterbrained as the DCEU was. And the DCEU kind of had some reasons for that. It started out with Zack Snyder, and then you bring in Joss Whedon, then you bring in Walter Hamada, and it's everybody's got a different vision. But we're kind of getting a lot of similar vibes out of James Gunn, and it's really just been one person, but it seems like he can't make up his mind on what he wants to do or when he's going to do it. And I don't know. I hope this isn't the DCEU 2.0. That's my great hope out there. When it comes to DC heroes in movies, I want this to work. Lanterns looks like a lost cause. I still have hope for Superman, but there's a lot of weird shit going on. And I'm not the only one noticing this. And I'm sure you're not the only one noticing this. In fact, there was an article on comicbook.com within the past week that I thought was really interesting that I wanted to talk about today, because I am feeling the same vibes, comicbook.com. The fate of the DC universe will really be determined once Superman soars into theaters and we get a clear view of how audiences respond to it. However, right now, DC Studios has got me more than a tad bit worried about the future of this franchise. Gunn and Safran's plans are starting to evoke the DC extended universe a bit too much for comfort. And that is the absolute gospel truth on that one. Things are starting, it feels like, to break down. Now, I don't think their original plan ever made a ton of sense. The most sensible plan would have been to come out with Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman 2, and then Justice League. Or maybe you throw a Batman 2 in there as well, and then get to your big crossover event. But there were no Wonder Woman movies in there. There was a Wonder Woman TV show without Wonder Woman in it. There was an extra Batman movie, but it's going to be Batman and Robin. And the Superman was supposed to be really young. It was Superman Legacy in his early days. Apparently, that's all kind of changed. And it feels like every 5 minutes, James Gunn is changing his mind on what they're actually going to do. And that original plan, which was a little bit too scatterbrained to begin with, has been breaking down every single month, it seems like. Some of the ambitions of the DC universe are starting to resemble aspects of the DCEU James Gunn once criticized, chiefly that solo Clayface movie, an indication that we're in for another era of DC movies obsessed with live-action solo movies for Batman villains, rather than fleshing out more obscure comic book characters. Gunn previously declared that he never planned for a Clayface feature, but Mike Flanagan's script convinced him to greenlight the movie. Unlike Joker, Clayface will exist in a broader continuity, but that already sounds like treating these properties like party favors once again. The Clayface movie is inexplicable. Why would you fast track a Clayface movie over a Batman movie? Why would you fast track a Clayface movie over a Flash movie? Why would you fast track a Clayface movie over Superman 2? Why would you fast track Clayface over anything? If you wanted to highlight the character, you should have had a TV show like, I don't know, The Penguin, which is going on right now on Max, which is very, very good. But there really isn't room for like a Clayface standalone movie, and I don't understand why you would ever even consider touching this property as a standalone film ever, let alone within the first phase. And it's probably going to be one of the first 3 or 4 movies that comes out if we ever make it to that. And I'm starting to have genuine concern that we might never get a second movie out of the DCU. We are hearing a lot of rumors out there that the test screenings for Superman have gone pretty poorly. And James Gunn, who once said, we're not going to be doing reshoots, we're going to do some extra, city shots and stuff like that, secondary type shots, but we're not going to change anything about the story. Apparently they are doing that. And it sounds like Superman might not be as tight as it was, originally reported to be. And then you start seeing this Clayface stuff and you're like, what the hell is he thinking? Why would you promote a Clayface anything over actual hero movie? I know Clayface, I guess, could theoretically be in that gray zone. He's a Batman villain, and there are like 3 or 4 different versions of Clayface, and that's not including Lady Clayface. But the character himself has basically just devolved into a Deus Ex Machina. Batman kills somebody, so you get the big wow moment on the last page reveal in the comic book, and then the next issue, it's revealed that it was Clayface all along, and You can't kill Clay with a bullet or something like that. And that's kind of what they've been doing with the character. So I don't think that there is a script strong enough to warrant fast tracking Clayface over any of the heroes. If you want an actual successful DCU that leads into a Justice League movie, that leads into another Justice League movie, and maybe some Teen Titans and all that kind of stuff, where it's all connected, sure, it might be a great concept, but it's in all likelihood not a great concept to further the interest of the DCU itself and expanding it out and having a shared superhero universe that's already going to be too big because it's going to be streaming, television, animation, video games, and movies. All those right out the gate. It's absolutely insane. Clayface, like, what are you guys thinking? Gunn and Safran frustratingly confirmed that most of the original slate of DC Studios films are on the back burner for now. Instead, new projects that have just randomly cropped up like Sergeant Rock and Clayface are priorities. On the other hand, it's good that the DC universe isn't just beholden to release dates or press announcements. If a movie isn't shaping up well, the label won't rush it into existence. On the other hand, it's also bizarre that live-action DC movies are once again in an existence defined by throwing things at the wall. The more things change, the more things stay the same. And I do think this is one of the things that James Gunn maybe didn't understand, and he should understand it because he was there. As far as I understand, he was there when they really finally mapped out the first phase, or first three phases, I guess, of the MCU. He wasn't there at the beginning, but once they finally mapped it out and how the big roadmap to getting to Endgame and all that stuff, he was in those rooms. And the reason that it worked so much is it kept building on itself. Each movie obviously is standalone and it's awesome, but it introduced new elements to a bigger story that was unfolding between us. And then you get the big climax and you make, $3.5 billion or whatever it is that Endgame ended up doing. And it's obvious that they never did that. They never really spelled it out. We need to do Superman, and then we got to do Supergirl, and then we got to get to Batman, and then we got to do the Authority, and then maybe we'll do a crossover, and then build it and build it and build it until you get to, I don't know, Darkseid, DC's version of Thanos or whatever. But it's clear that they never mapped that up. These are supposed to all be like standalone films, is what it kind of seems like. And that's exactly what ended up being a complete burden on the DCEU, is that you didn't need to see all this stuff. It was all done with different visions by different directors that highlighted characters that never were going to interact with each other and ended up becoming all for naught instead of following the Marvel method, which was very, very successful when James Gunn was there. And, why are we doing a Sergeant Rock movie? Like, that is a weird idea. I like Sergeant Rock, and I don't think a DC Elseworld Sergeant Rock war movie is the worst thing of all time, but why would it be in the DCU? You got to go back to World War II and shit for that stuff. Are we going to throw Superman into a Sergeant Rock movie? I don't see that happening. And it does feel very scatterbrained. It feels very scattershot, where they are just kind of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks because they don't have a clear, concrete plan to get to whatever their ultimate goal is. And that could be for a lot of things, but I think it's a lack of planning that's really doomed this. And the first movie coming out after Superman is Supergirl. And as soon as you have Superman firmly established as that your Superman character, you're going to back it up with a variant character. Like, that doesn't even make sense. But what do I know? I'm not James Gunn, and I'm not the CEO of DC Studios, I guess. But it all just feels very bad at this point. I do not have high hopes for any of this stuff. And neither apparently is comicbook.com. The biggest takeaway from this event is that the DC universe appears to be in awkward limbo until Superman comes out. Streaming shows like Peacemaker, Creature Commandos, and Lanterns are moving ahead, but theatrical movies are just more scattershot. Cameras are only rolling on Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and everything beyond that Superman spinoff is nebulously defined. Clayface doesn't even have a leading man yet. There's a strange lack of confidence here, especially in contrast to how gusto Gunn was in announcing DC Studios movies 2 years ago. The American superhero movie is in a fragile place right now. Gunn and company may be waiting to see if Superman becomes the next Daredevil and Wolverine or Captain America Brave New World before really committing to a deluge of theatrical DC movies. And I do not blame David Zaslav or Warner Brothers Discovery for feeling this way. They have lost a treasure trove of money on DC-related projects since he basically became the manager of Warner Bros. Since they've done the merger. You had Black Adam, you had The Flash, you had Shazam! Fear the Gods, you had Joker for the Due, which felt like it probably was a can't miss and ended up losing a lot of money. So they have lost money time and time again. And there are the rumors out there that the end state, at least for Zaslav and Warner Brothers Discovery, is to sell off Warner Brothers and just be Discovery again. And they need a good Superman movie and a good showing to say, hey, we've got the starter for this franchise to make Warner Brothers more financially viable or attractive to people out there that are wanting to buy the property. Obviously, we've got Harry Potter in production right now with a TV show. They're trying to really get into the Lord of the Rings stuff, the franchise that they have that could, in theory, make them a lot of money. But I feel like they are doing the DC comic stuff wrong. I think they're doing the Lord of the Rings stuff wrong. Like, whoever wanted a prequel to the Fellowship of the Ring with Aragorn looking for Gollum, with Viggo Mortensen having to be aged down like 25 years. Like, what a weird concept. I don't think a Harry Potter TV show is the worst thing of all times. Like, if you want to do a season each book, but those stories have been told and they were told masterfully and they made a ton of money. Maybe we could do something different there. But even the casting on those looks really weird. Outside of Lithgow as Dumbledore, which is the absolute, the absolute shit. I mean, that's hot fire as far as casting, but all the other stuff that they're doing just seems really weird. And I think we're all in a holding pattern to move forward with any of this stuff, really, because I think the ultimate goal is to sell this stuff off. And if they lose money and they can't sell it off, I don't think we're going to see another movie. We might see them right off the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, which doesn't even make sense because you already have a Superman character and it's a complete ripoff of True Grit, which is a fantastic film. No matter which one you watch, there's been two versions of it. Although I personally prefer the Coen brothers. I know people are going to call me stupid because I am the world's biggest John Wayne fan, but I think the Coen brothers version of True Grit is even better. And there's no way in hell that Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow is going to be better. It's just weird. And we're all just kind of sitting here waiting for this thing to either work or kind of fall apart. And there's clearly not a plan, but I do think I still hold out hope despite the rumors that the test screenings are bad. I liked the trailer. When the family saw the trailer, they said they wanted to go to Superman. I'm assuming that other people had that same reaction with their families, and Superman ends up working out. But you would hope that they would have a really good plan to back that up. First up, Batman movie. Second up, Wonder Woman movie. Then you do a Superman 2 instead of throwing all this superfluous bullshit like Supergirl. That's a redundant character at that point because Superman's already established, or a Clayface, or a Sergeant Rock, and you're not even including the mainstays, the pillars of the fucking DC characters. It doesn't even make sense. But I'm not the only one feeling this. You're not the only one feeling this. A lot of people are starting to go, what the fuck is going on here? Is this just the DCEU again? Where we just do a bunch of weird random shit and I hope that it all kind of comes together at the end? Because that didn't work out the first time. In fact, it worked out really, really bad. Terribly, if I remember correctly. But hopefully, I'm hoping that it works out well. But everything inside my body, my spidey sense is tingling all over the place every time I hear a new piece of information about James Gunn and his DCU. It looks like it might be an unfixable dumpster fire at this point. If you appreciate conversations about comic books, the news, movies, streaming, all that stuff, opinions about what's going on around comic books, and you would like to help us with our mission at Thinking Critical YouTube to continue providing that to you, you'd like to be a part of the family, I do invite you to come visit me on Patreon. There's a link in the video description. There's a button right here. You go to the Patreon, you find the tier that's right for you. You find the podcast that you're really, really interested in. You get bonus videos. You get a superhero name. You get to be a part of the family and support the mission moving forward to hopefully keep comic books kind of alive in pop culture, because it feels like everyone else is trying to kill it.